All right. Our first stream on Twitch in about a year, probably more. Typically we're over on YouTube. Um, if oh goodness, we'll see if this works out or not, and we'll see how long I do study for. Um, so I mean, I suppose I should just find a book to get started with study with. Um, let's see. Oh, gotta go to my chest shelf. Mm. Okay, let's go with improve your middle gameplay. I think that would be oh I think that would be good for me for today. Um Oop, that's the wrong one. Because I am on Twitter. That's not the right one either. There we are. So, um I suppose let's just jump right into it. Uh Also I want to say sorry for being, an hour and a half late. I fell asleep. Um which is not good. But I didn't plan to sleep for 4 hours. All right. Um, all right, let's start with the intro. Um, a beginning, a middle, and an end. It is impossible to define exactly where the opening finishes and the middle game begins. Some games even pass from opening to end game with barely a middle game at all. However, most games do feature a stage in which both sides have deployed most or all of their army and are striving to attack weaknesses in their opponent's position. As long as most of the pieces remain on the board, we can safely regard this as a middle game, regardless of whether we are on move 10, move 20, or move 50. Having said that, it is impossible to talk about the middle game without reference to the opening or end game, and chess is a far too well integrated game for that. Tactical and positional play. Do you consider yourself to be a tactical player or a positional player? If you answered just a chess player, then go to the top of the class. It is not necessary to pigeonhole yourself. All very strong players are pretty much equally adept at positional and tactical play. If you don't have a good understanding of positional play, then how can you expect to achieve the kinds of positions from which an attack can be launched? If you are always afraid of tactics, then you will never be able to make the critical decisions that will turn your good positional play into victory. The purpose of this book is to improve your all-around middle game play. If you are already a good tactical player, then you will probably gain the most benefit from the sections on positional play, whereas if positional play is your forte, then the tactical material should come in very useful. Just remember, if you want to be a stronger player, then you need to improve the areas in which you are weak. Otherwise, your play will be one-dimensional and you will become an easy person to play and prepare against. Note, Grandmasters never specialize in one area of the game. They are all good all-round players. So that's something. Uh, A simple plan. Not the hit band. Most middle games are full of cut and thrust, with both players constantly introducing new ideas and countering their opponent's threats with threats of their own. On occasion, however, the game takes a much smoother path. Let's start by looking at a game in which a single simple idea dominated virtually the whole battle. This is Karpov versus Lautier in BL 1992. I believe I can actually change the names. There. Maybe. Details. Here we are. So white is Karpov, and black is there. BL and sometime in 1992. All right. So, hello, Sir Andy and Sean. How are you? It's nice to see someone chatting here. All right, so we start out with d4, d5, then c4, Queen's Gambit, and c6, meeting with the Slav. Knight c3, knight f6, knight f6, then e3, e6. Very common, like, diamond position, semi-Slav. Here we see the solid semi-Slav defense to the Queen's Gambit. Black has a very firm base in the center, but he will eventually have to do something about the light-squared bishop on c8, which is somewhat entombed by the pawns on e6 and c6. Wait. Yes, e6 and c6. White's bishop on c1 has a happier future, as it will be hard for black to prevent his opponent from playing e3 to e4 in the long run. Playing e3 to e4. I don't know what they mean by that. But regardless, the game continues. White plays knight f3. Black plays knight b to d7. d7. Queen c2. Bishop d6. Bishop e2. Castles, castles. Rook e8. Rook d1. Queen e7. h3, b6. h3. Not sure why you would move this piece, but maybe they'll explain it. And then b6. All right. Both sides have been developing in normal fashion, waiting for their opponent to commit himself. I would say that White's next move, beginning active operations in the center, marks the transition from the opening to the middle game. And that move is e4. Pawn break. Hello, Woozle. How are you? I'm glad that you're doing well, Sean. So e4, knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. D takes e4. Queen takes e4. And then bishop b7. Bishop b7. There. Oh. The The first thing to notice about the position is that white has much more space. He pretty much controls the first 4 ranks. From here to here. Pretty much controls the first 4 ranks on the board, whereas all of black's forces reside in the back 3 rows. The crucial battle will revolve around the 5th rank. This one. If white can assume control of this area of the board, then he will be able to launch an attack on the black position. For his part, black would ultimately like to free his light-squared bishop with c6 to c5. So this. But doing so right now would lose the bishop. So, move 14. White plays bishop f4. Offering a trade of bishops. Alright, I'm doing alright, thank you. I fell asleep on the couch for 4 hours, probably because I had an edible, basically right when I got home from work. And that was good, I suppose. Not really, but we can make do, I guess. Wei is not afraid of exchanges, provided that the bishop remains boxed in on b7. Black responds with rook a to d8. Despite the fact that he's played seemingly natural moves, black has slipped into a difficult position. Perhaps he could have tried Korchnoid's idea of rook a to b8, which would be that. Breaking the pin on the c6 pawn, and intending a quick c6 to c5. But after bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, knight e5, c5, queen e3, just drop it back. White still has a very pleasant position. So this doesn't do black that much more good. So, back to the game. Bishop takes d6. This is a white move, so bishop takes d6. Queen takes d6. Knight e5. So it's the same set of moves, basically. And knight e5 is given an exclamation point, which means it is a good move. White makes his first foray into the black camp, attempting to establish an outpost on the 5th rank. Knight takes e5, which is a questionable move. Black remains unaware of the danger and continues to exchange pieces willy-nilly. It would have been better to free the bishop with knight f6 instead. Knight f6, there. Because that breaks this. And then that's met with queen e3 and c5. Frees the bishop. Although black would have had a slightly unpleasant ending after d takes c5, queen takes c5, queen takes c5, b takes c5. Due to his isolated queenside pawns, so these guys aren't having a good time here. What book are you reading from, Camilla? I'm reading from Improve Your Middle Game by Andrew Kinsman. This is part of it's an Everyman chess book. So yes, Improve Your Middle Game. Let's see. Isolate queenside pawns, so we are. And then going back. Note that, so rather note that rook to rook to a8 instead. Just going back to a8. Why? Would also have been a mistake due to knight takes d7. Rook takes d7. How does rook take d7? Bishop to a8. Oh my god. There we go. Knight takes d7, rook takes d7. Let's just, big move. There we go. Rook takes d7. And then c5. c5. And that just permanently locks the bishop in there. Or it's a lot harder to get out. You have to do like that or something. The bishop would be permanently shut in. How long have you been playing chess? My brother and I used to play a lot when we were younger, but I didn't take it to it as well as he did. We've been playing chess on and off for 20 years, but I've only begun to take it seriously this past year. Also, I'm very small in the corner. Let me see here. Let me blow me up, but also going to, nope, it's Alt that does this. Oop. That's a bit better. Feel a little less small there. So yes, back to knight takes e5, which is met with d takes e5 and queen c7. Oh, that's queen e7. Move. Queen c7. Black finally threatens to free his position with c7 to c5. That, I suppose. But a series of accurate moves by Karpov keeps the black bishop tied up. And those moves are bishop f3, which is marked as a good move, and bishop a8. Renewing the threat of this. So rook takes d8. This is from white, so rook takes d8. Rook takes d8. Rook d1. And rook takes d1 check. Black didn't have time for c5 due to rook takes d8 check. Whoops. Rook takes d8 check. Queen takes d8. Queen takes a8, and that wins a piece because of that. And now you're just up a piece in the endgame. So instead, we go to here. Bishop takes d1, and then queen d8. Black continues with the vain hope of freeing his bishop with c6 to c5. Again, still that move. But white again counters this idea. He is even prepared to give up a pawn to hold the bishop in check. I feel you shouldn't say in check so much in a book on chess. if it doesn't mean, in check. Hi, baby, how are you? Girlfriend is in the chat. Let me, can I make you a mod from here? I could ban you. That's probably not good. I'll have to figure out how to mod you. Anyway. You can slash mod and then their username. Woozle, you're brilliant. Yes, okay, yes, I know my own chat rules, thank you. Slash mod. Sequoia Forest. There we are. Chilling HL is going to make a thank you card for the Nautiluses for the Squishmallow. That's very sweet. I hope that goes well. How's chess? It's going well. I'm several moves into the introductory game. Yeah, the cute sword, your mod now. Alright, so. Bishop f3 from white. Back to here. Queen d2. Queen on the 7th rank is problematic. b3. So yes, white is willing to give this up. Queen takes a2, and then b4. So that black can't pick up that pawn as well. Black obviously can pick this up because queen would take. For the 24th move, queen d4 was tempting. Threatening mate in 1. But after queen a3, black's queen is able to return to the defense of the back rank. However, queen d4 will be much more powerful, whereas it will be much more powerful when black has to contend with this threat, I suppose. There we are. Why didn't the black queen go for check? Because it doesn't really do anything. So if you just go, like, let's say there, either, well, the king just escapes, and you've got nothing from it. It's just a pointless check. And you can't even do that because queen takes. So b4. All right. Queen a1 check. Okay. I guess we're doing it. King h2. And then queen a6, which is considered a very questionable move. After this move, black is too passive. Korchnoy's suggestion of the active queen a3 would have still offered drawing chances. But instead, here we are with a6. White plays queen d4, which is considered a good move. Lautier was Lautier? I don't know. Was probably counting on b5, queen c8, b takes c6, g6. With a messy position. However, Karpov is not distracted by the opportunity to regain his pawn and instead strives to keep up the pressure on black's position. Okay, so instead d4. Queen d4. Which is met with queen c8. And then c5. Which permanently locks down that pawn. Hello, Princess Morningstar. How are you? It's hard to know which some of you, which of you are YouTube crowd and which of you are new, perhaps? Could it be possible that we have new viewers? Let me see. Oh, and this is just noted as finally sealing the fate of black's bishop. B takes c5. Queen takes c5. And a6. This rules out b4, b5. Which is that. This rules out b4, b5, but allows the white queen to infiltrate. Here. So queen e7. G6. And h4. Which is considered a good move. Karpov decides to soften up the black king side a little bit. Good, been watching Final Fantasy XIV stuff since I can't play it right now. And yes, I do know that you're Siphon Cypher, Ruzel. Not a new viewer, but first time watching chess. Well, welcome to chess. So h4 is met with h5. And then king g3 met with queen b7, which is considered a mistake and is noted as the fatal mistake. There is no way that black can survive the bishop ending with such a bad minor piece. Awaiting moves such as queen b8, queen b8, would have been a much better choice, though black's game leaves a lot to be desired. So queen takes b7, bishop takes b7, king f4, king f8, king g5, king e7, king e7, bishop e4, bishop a8. Oh, that's rough. F3, bishop b7. That's hard to watch. The diagram is labeled black can only sit and await his fate. Yeah, I mean, well, g4, bishop a8. Oh no. Move h takes g4. F takes g4, bishop a8, h5, g takes h5, f4, f4? Oh, g takes h5, king f8. There we go. And then king f6, was equally hopeless. So, g takes h5, g takes h5, f4, bishop b7. Oh, bishop b7, yeah. Bishop f3, f3, 3. There we are. Attacking this pawn, obviously. Bishop a8. King takes h5. Imagine, imagine, imagine being a grandmaster and not resigning here. You know, when your last several moves have just been bishop b7, bishop a8, bishop b7, bishop a8. And it's like the bishop that bishop moving back and forth is like watching a Pokemon struggle when it's out of moves, yeah. So king takes imagine me saying that and the next move is black resigns. Black resigns 1-0. The game is remarkable in that one can trace the roots of black's defeat all the way back to move 4. White single-mindedly played to exploit the one defect in black's position, the inactive light-squared bishop. From the opening to the middle game right through to the endgame. He barely had to calculate anything, simply to exchange pieces until there was nothing left but his good bishop and black's bad bishop. Naturally, there were a few points at which black's play might have been improved, but the main point is that black was under pressure the whole game. He had numerous difficult decisions to make, and it is not surprising that he eventually took the wrong path. Karpov was effectively playing with the draw quote-unquote in hand, and he was able to create enough problems for his opponent that this draw could have eventually transformed into a full point. Tip: always try to play with draw in hand if possible. You will find that very few of your games will follow such a straightforward path as this one, and not just because you don't play chess quite as well as Anatoly Karpov. In 99% of games, your opponent will manage to muddy the waters at some point, even if it is just in a desperate last gasp bid for freedom after you have positionally outplayed them. That is why it is important to be an all-round player, to not only take advantage of the possibilities generated by good positional play when things are going well, but also to be able to spot opportunities to complicate matters when something has gone awry with your position. Next section is called An Expensive Lesson. Sometimes we learn our lessons the hard way. I have vivid recollections of one game that I played more than 10 years ago, and it is still a very painful memory. Tip: it's better to learn from other people's mistakes than your own. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you. Um, so now we are looking at the end of a game from. First of all, let's reset. Oh, new analysis. There we are. And the details. The white player is Kinsman versus Feingold, who I believe streams or has a YouTube channel. Ben Feingold. And this is the Le Ticket Open in here. This is 1989. All right, so need to go into setup here. Just, clear the board. Black king, 2 pawns. here. Pawn, pawn, black queen, black rook. And then white, king g8, queen here, two pawns, here, 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 and rook. There we go. Suddenly Kinsman has chances again. Alright, so the position in here was reached after 27 moves of this last round game. The winner would win a share of first place and a sizable prize, whereas the loser would go home with barely enough prize money to buy a round of drinks. I had played some reasonable positional chess up to this point and had managed to bag a pawn, but in the process I had used up far more time on my clock than was strictly necessary. The conclusion of the game should have been a matter of technique, but here mine was severely found wanting. And we are going to start off with... I can close that. Oh, son of a bitch. Okay, that's fine. That's great. Nobody talk to me about this. Then king. All right. Hands. Whatever. Rook c1 is the first move. Rook c1. I don't know how to keep this if I go to like board, flip board, clear board. I don't want to just... Oh, load. There we are. I figured it out. Yeah, thank you. Load. So anyway, rook c1. Ah, shit. How do I make it so it's a different player to move? Alright, well, let's, what are you playing this on? Is this on a website or a game of its own? This is on chess.com. Settings, interface. Alright. Custom position. No. Oh, that's the opening explorer. What a pain in the ass. Clear the board. Being very good at setting up this position. There we are. King. Load. There we are. So C1. Rook C1. H6. Rook C8. Check. King H7. Rook C4, which is marked as a good move. Oh. C4. Really? Because it doesn't seem like a good move according to the computer. Queen E5. Rook F4. Attacking this pawn. Oh, simple, yes. Yes, chess.com is very good. Chess.com, if you want to give me money, I'd be open. Queen E5, Rook F4, Queen C7. Alright. Nothing wrong so far. My rook is doing a good job protecting the F2 pawn. This one. While at the same time bearing down on black's weakened king side. Alright. King H2. So now that the rook is protecting that, the king is free to escape. I like this move. Don't toot your own horn, Andrew. There is no need to hurry, as black can't generate any threats for the time being. If white can just reach move unscathed, I think that's a typo, he will have enough time to sit and work out how to convert the extra pawn. Black meets with king g7. Rook g4 check. Knight h7. Rook f4. Basically, don't try it. Another fine move, repeating moves to get closer to the time control. Because if you pass 40 moves, you get an extra 40 minutes, I think. Something like that. King g7. King g7, just doing it again. Queen b4. Queen c2. King g2. So that they can't just battery in. King g2, e5. e5 attacking the rook. And rook g4 check, which is marked as a mistake. A daft choice, rook f3 was solid and good. But it's met with king f6. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, we're going to rook g4 check, king f6, which it's marked in the book as exclamation point 2 question marks. What does that mean? I've never seen a 3 mark one. Typically, they'll give you a little index of what each mark means. What is it, like an interesting blunder? Whatever. We'll count it as an interesting blunder. King h7 was also possible. And almost certainly a better objective move. However, black was playing to take full advantage of my obvious confusion and lack of time. Queen takes b6. Check. King f5. Attacking the rook. And then e4, which is a blunder. Just a straight blunder. Wow! Did you see that bar? Task failed successfully, yes. Oof. There she goes. Perhaps the worst move I have ever played. Converting a 7.5 advantage to white into a 5.5 deficit on the Fritz scale. However, Stockfish analyzes it as going from a +6 to a -15, which is worse. I simply panicked in time trouble and altogether failed to spot the one and only winning move for white, the quote-unquote obvious King h3. Oh, that's... Yeah, I do see why this is a terrible blunder. You lose a rook. You just lose a rook in that position. And you're down 54 points of material. My god. It's definitely a move I would make. So the King h3 is better because it threatens the killing e4 check. You need the one move to protect the rook instead. That's killer. So e4. King takes g4. Queen e3. Rook d3. Pardon. Queen takes h6. Here. Rook takes g3 check. And white resigns. Because this is mate in 2. I believe that's... I mean, that is just outright mate in 1. There, I think, is still mate in 2. Oh, never mind. That's mate in 4 for white if you do that. Endgames are hard. Anyway, white resigns here. Ouch, as painful and expensive as this lesson was, it is a perfect example of how good positional play can only get you so far before you need to calculate, of how even the most sedate positions can suddenly explode in your face. Warning, never assume that a winning position will win itself. The structure of this book. The roots of good middle game play lie in understanding position. If you are able to identify and attack your opponent's weaknesses, then you are already well on the way to success. Chapter 2, Fundamentals of Positional Play, will show you some of the typical middle game structures and how you should handle them. Once you've established a good position, the most important thing is to keep it under control, preventing your opponent from launching a counterattack, as I conspicuously failed to do in the given example above. This issue will be dealt with in Chapter 3, before we move on to ways of avoiding blunders in Chapter 4. Attacking play is the subject of Chapter 5, while Chapter 6 will look at ways to fight back when your opponent is on top. Finally, we shall look at how to avoid and play in time travel in Chapter 7. So the summary of this chapter: all Grandmasters are good all-around players. Always try to play with draw in hand if possible. It is better to learn from other people's mistakes than your own. Never assume that a position will win itself. Chapter 2. Fundamentals of Positional Play, which contains the role of pawn structure, quote-unquote worst piece first, the wrong rook, the perils of playing by rote, and try it yourself. The role of pawn structure in middle game play. Okay. Those terms you hear bandied around all the time, bad bishop, open file, weak square, etc., all relate to one thing: pawn structure. In a sense, positional play begins not in the middle game, but right from move 1. The decisions you make early on in the game form the roots from which your whole game will grow. If you carelessly leave yourself with weak pawns and a bad bishop in the opening, then you can fully expect to have weak pawns and a bad bishop in the middle game, and the end game too, should you even manage to last that long. How often have we heard our friends say, "I made a mistake in the middle game," or "I should have drawn, really," only to discover that, in fact, they were always struggling after some poor opening play that left them with bad position to start with. So, if you want to be a good positional player, you have to start thinking about the middle game straight from the opening, at least in general terms. To illustrate what I mean, let's take a look at some of the typical pawn structures that can arise from various popular openings, and see how the middle game may turn out from each of them. Isolated queen's pawn. The isolated queen's pawn, IQP structure, can arise from so many different openings that it is sure to crop up in your own games from time to time. Let's reset the board. New analysis, that's it. Is a particular feature of certain openings, such as the C3 Sicilian, which is E4, C5? Yes, E4, C5, C3. The Panov-Botvinnik attack, E4, C6, D4, D5, Knight D2, and C5. Wait. No, I combine. Oh God, I'm dyslexic. I combined it with the new analysis. I combined the Panov-Botvinnik attack with the Tarrasch French. So this is E4, C6, D4, D5, E takes D5, C takes D5, and then C4. So a sort of pseudo Queen's Gambit. It can also be part of the Tarrasch French, which is, of course, E4, E6, D4, D5, Knight D2, and C5. Tarrasch French. The Tarrasch's Queen's Gambit. D4, D5, C4, E6. Typical Queen's Gambit declined. Knight C3, C5. Interesting. And several other openings. Is the IQP strong or weak? Well, that depends on the particular circumstances at hand. Sometimes the IQP will become a pathetic blight on your position, and other times it will enable you to launch a vicious attack. It all depends on the specific position. Certainly, there are several grandmasters who specialize in playing with the IQP, and others who would much prefer to saddle their opponent with one. It's basically a matter of taste. Let's start with an example in which Black was able to utilize his IQP to deadly effect. And here we are going to start a new analysis and set up. And let's clear the board. I think that's easiest. 3. then 2 on the ends. 1 on d5. Then we have rook, rook, bishop, queen, knight, bishop, and then a knight here. And then white has a castle position. Yes, I know. Black has mate in 3 here. That's very funny. Lost my train of thought. Rook, bishop, queen. Actually, pawn there, and pawn here, pawn here. Being cut out the bishop. That. Knight, knight. Which is what I will say at the end of the stream. So this is an isolated queen pawn position. And this is Darga playing white and Nunn playing black in Rotterdam, 1979. So Darga and black is Nunn. Your business. I don't know what the outcome was. No result. Location Rotterdam. In 79. There we are. Oh, and this is I can actually put in this black one, this one. Spoilers. Here white appears to have few problems. The d-pawn is well blockaded. This. And white has ideas of knight takes d5. Knight takes d5. Or knight b5 to d4. Knight b5. Oh, so I'm guessing that. Yeah. However, black was able to win the battle for the d4 square with a series of fine moves. Starting with... Shit, I made a white move still. Ah! Oh, you know what? I wonder if I can, like, export it? Yeah, share it on LinkedIn. PTN, there we go. New analysis. Load PTN. Load. There we are. Oh, you know what? There might be something in there with, like, setup. If I made this 0 instead of 1. Load? No, I just screwed it up instead. That's fine. And full move count. It's going to be black to move. There we are. Whatever. so clear everything. Sorry about this, everyone. I'm still learning the interface here for analysis and things. And then d5, and knight, bishop, rook, rook, bishop, queen, and then knight. How's everyone doing out there? Is everyone having a good day? Anybody having a good snack? A little chess snack for everyone? I know I'm talking to you all like you're my cat. You can get a bishop, and I believe that's it. Alright. And it's black to move. Load. Meow. You just finished your card for Danny? Nice job, Rachel. Alright, so black plays bishop to a3. What? Which is considered a good move. It's met by obviously take the bishop. However, knight takes c3. Queen c2. Knight takes e2 check. Queen takes e2. And bishop g4. We sent you a pick. Decide to play alongside you. It's going predictably badly. What's important is that you are playing, and therefore you are learning. I drew the squishmallow with watercolored penciled. Let's see. Oh, how cute. Can I show this, HL? Yeah? Was that yeah, show it, or just Callie helped? Oh. Callie's very good at that sort of thing. Show it. Okay, okay. So, HL from our partner system. Ooh. There you go. Drew that card of the squishmallow that our friend gave them. It's very sweet. It's a very good drawing. Alright, back to chess. Oh, there. Let's see, bishop a3 through g4. There we go. And this is threatening d4. Sorry, threatening d5, d4. Knight d4. Knight e5. Or queen f6. White plays bishop b2. And black plays d4. Despite the fact that white has 3 pieces attacking the d4 square, he is unable to capture this pawn. 1, 2, 3. Because really, white only has 2 pieces attacking it, because this knight is pinned. Or 2 pieces defending it. Black has 2 attackers, white has 2 defenders. So, take, 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 take. And if you take, I take. And I believe you're down pawn, if not a full piece. I think you're down a full piece. I could be wrong. You are an artist. Yes, you are. All right, so h3. Kicking the bishop so that this is unpinned. And then d3. That's a tough one. To all intents and purposes, the positional battle is over. Black has a huge pawn on d3 and very active pieces. White struggled on for a while, but the result was never in doubt. And my god, it just gives you the rest of the moves. Hang on. So let's play here. Queen d2. Bishop takes f3. G takes f3. Now I'm guessing queen? No, knight e5. E5. Defending the pawn. Bishop takes e5. Rook takes e5. King h2. Queen d7. Rook g1. Rook c8. Rook a to d1. Rook d5. E4. Queen d6. Check. King h1. Rook d4. Nope, that's c4, d4. Rook c1. Rook takes c1. Rook takes c1. h6. h6. Queen c3. d2. Oof. Rook d1. Queen d7. Attacking this. King g2. Rook d6. Queen e3. Queen b5. I'm guessing just trying to like worm your way in here. Perhaps with that. Trade queens since you have this powerful pawn here. F4. Oh, and the double pawns too. That's so hard. F4 seals it, unfortunately. With rook d3. Oh, and of course, if you do this, you're met with that. And you lose your queen. But anyway, here white resigns. An important aspect of black's play in moves 12 to 16, and we started out on 12, so in the first like 4 moves here, to bear in mind is that he was constantly fighting for control of the d4 square. Anyway, in IQP positions, the square in front of the IQP possesses the most possesses almost magical properties. The reason is the reason for this is that the side with the IQP has no way of attacking the square with a pawn. So if a piece can be established on this outpost, then it is likely to remain there for a long time. Interesting. Okay. If white had been able to blockade the square in the above example, then he would have ultimately had good prospects of picking off the d-pawn. Here we see another example along the same lines. Oh, interesting. Spam. Oh, guys, my first Twitch spam. Guys. Let me see. How do I ban you? Block. Thank you. I don't know how to do that from my end. Alright, so we move to a new game. Setup. And setup is white to move this time. Clear everything. I can hear Matt snoring through the walls. We'll probably do a little more. Maybe we'll finish this one and maybe one more. We'll see. The thing with chess books is that they just give you a bunch of games. It must be hard to fill out a chess book. Because like that last game was just one page. And this book is like 150 pages. 144. But we will get through it. And pawn on d5. You should play an actual game. I can play an actual game after this. I mean, we could always do one now. Yeah, let's play an actual game. So everyone remember we were on page 18. I don't have a bookmark. This actually did come with a bookmark. Or a sticky note. Do I have sticky notes? No. So this little mark that says Feld. Just stick that in there, I suppose. Thank you, previous owner. All right, let's play a game. Oh, this is an ongoing one that I'm working on. I've basically got this. I should just like push this to the end. Yeah, let's do that. I think I actually opened with e5, e4 in that game, which is strange for me. All right, let's play. There's no way I'm just straight 1200. That's not me. What is this? Crash? There we go. 1223. I lost a game earlier today in a humiliating fashion. So let's make up for it. Put my headphones on so I can hear. We're playing against Amirul Munaz, a 1031 from Bangladesh, and he's playing e4. So let's meet with the French defense. I should have gotten out my book on the French defense. Maybe we can do that next time. No, we should continue the book that we're doing. So I had this happen last time too, the Steinitz attack. I played d5 last time. They took en passant, and I took with the black squared bishop, which did lead me to castle pretty early. I think this time let's do the same thing this time. If they take en passant, they take en passant. And of course, chess.com noting this is a legal move, of course. Uh, hmm. So if I go there, they push, I take, they take. I don't really have anything. If I was here instead, then I would have an easy opportunity to take their queen. Um, so I think that I think this first, and then I will play this. Because now if they push, I take, and it's backed up. You know what? I do want to do this first. So that they can't come in here and just pin me. Now I don't think this works. Because if they push, I take, they take, I take, they take. So pawn down, piece, piece, pawn. Oh, it's even. It's even material. That's fine. I can castle. Yeah, I should change it out loud from or change it from reading aloud. There we go. And I should actually change the title to Chess with Camilla. So they're pinning this knight to my queen. Hmm. This isn't a situation where I can do anything tricky with this, unfortunately. Because in things like the Stafford Gambit, there's a lot of natural positions where you have a bishop pin or a knight pinned to the king with queen with a bishop, and you just move the knight, and if they take the queen, it's actually checkmate, which is very funny. Um, hmm, do I want this annoying position? Yeah, I think that's fine. I only gain 4 points if I win, and I lose 4 points if I draw, which is always hard. I mean, I am 200 points higher than them. If I do that, they back up to there, I can trade that. But what does that give me? Hmm. What is my plan? I think that I want control of this square. Is that it? Which I do have control of that square, so that's good. Oh, son of a bitch. I fucking misclicked. I can't wait for the computer to roast me on that one. We'll call that an in-between move. Let's do this. Okay. They're sacrificing their knight to keep this pin and to sincerely damage my queen side or my king side rather. Which isn't good. Oh, you know what is good though? Check, take, check, take. I think this is a great gift. Okay, do we have emotes in chat now? Not like this. It's pretty bad. Yeah. Oh, this is such a tough position because anything I do to block that just loses me. I think it just straight up loses me a queen. I might as well get a bishop out of it. What a terrible game. I blame it on the misclick, frankly. I don't believe in them. I don't think they can convert this. That will do it. What do I think? There, which protects nothing. No, my best move is that. Because then I can escape to here. No, I cannot. I cannot escape. We're not going to talk about that one. Let's play Stafford Gambit, if we can. Go on, play your opening. King's Gambit. Ooh. A gamer has logged on. I don't know, reverse, uh... I'm already out of preparation. Let's prevent them from castling. If they do that, I take, they take, I take, they take, I take. Hmm. Well, let's open up our light squared bishop. What? With the intent of doing that and blocking me in? So if I do that, they push, if I do this, they push, I take, they take, I take. So I like that. Plus it gives me room to escape. So David Lev is at 1280 from the UK. Hmm. I don't know. Let's just get our knight out there. Which way do I want to take? I think I want to take this. I'm planning to castle that way. Let's do that. Oh, and I can't actually castle because of their uh, light square bishop. Um, so if I go there and they push that, take. That's fine, yeah. Because ultimately I want to trade off this light square bishop. I think, what is their threat? I think they might just be trying to castle here. And it's very not good for them to keep that knight there. Which is why it would be nice to keep that knight there at all costs. Yeah, that was my guess. They're trying to trick me into a family fork, I think. Because uh if I slide back to here, take, check. And it's it forks my king and queen. So I do think I do think I end up having to kind of take the L on this. That's a good move. It's not my strongest play tonight. He said, kind of you to think so. I wrote good tactic. He said, kind of you to think so. More luck than anything. And I said, ain't that just the way? Um, so we can pick up we can pick up a pawn potentially. Make no mistake, we are getting that bishop. This has been nice. Streaming on Twitch is interesting. Mm. Let's get my queen out there. Still protecting this fork and attacking this bishop. Oh, well, I decided to castle anyway. That's fine. That's fine. And if he goes there, I'll go there to protect the pawn. Oh, good. Let's form a battery here. Attack that pawn. I think it's going to end up being a late night for me, unfortunately. But I did also sleep for 4 hours this evening, so maybe that's best. I have a feeling tomorrow is going to be absolutely miserable. Okay. This knight is absolutely useless right now. It's driving me insane. I think let's go here so that we can move this. I'm okay trading this because it does actually set my doubled pawns correct again. I think maybe if I can push that, I can loop my knight into somewhere. Hmm. Honestly, let's do a rook lift. It's very slow, and probably not good overall, but we're going to try and make it work. I found that whenever I do study or a lesson, the first game that I play after, if it's on the same day, I play absolutely without my brain. I don't know why. That's fine because I wanted to do that anyway. We need to make up a little bit of time. Only about 2 minutes, but still. Then again, there was that game that we played on Saturday where we were 20 minutes behind our opponent or something, maybe 10 or 15, and we won. What's nice is that this bishop can't come any further. It can't go any of those places, can't go there. So the only spaces it has are here. Hmm. I think I can still pull this out. Because the thing is, we're both in a very tough position here. Take, 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 take. That might be a good move for them. Or alternatively, actually that doesn't really work. I don't think, at least. So typically I wouldn't want to trade when I'm down by a full piece, but this trade actually gains me a piece back because it would be take, take, well, take, 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 and then either this piece or this piece falls. Okay, so now it's take, 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 take. Just outright lose a piece. Let's go with this. And I just lose that, so that's good. Oh, good. Take. King takes, check. Hmm. Check. There. I don't know about this one, guys. Okay, let's reroute the knight. That's fine, because we pin your bishop now. And you can't defend it. I want to do this because I would absolutely love take, pinned. Check? No, well, not check, but check. If they take that, then so if they take that, it's check, block, not checkmate. But I do get the knight back. Let me just double check. Check, block, check to there. We'll do our best here. I think that's their best move. Because, like, my critical flaw here is that I have a rook hanging. Oh. They go there. Or there. Take, take, take. And I think we're even. No, we're not even. No, not at all, actually. I'm down about 4 points. Well, we'll see. If we can get down to a king and pawn endgame, I can win this. But it's not looking great. So attacking that pawn. If I do that, then they just take that one first. Let's just do that. I'm okay with this because if he takes, I take. And we'll figure it out from there. This game's kind of over, but what are you thinking? Play for the stalemate? Oh. Alright, I think I have this. Mm-hmm. Okay, I need to go back, forward. Oh, they made it a rook, you son of a bitch. Yeah, well. Could have been. I'm pretty sure that if they had made that a queen at the end, it would have been stalemate. Well, they were winning pretty much the entire time. Really, queen is not stalemate? Oh, because I have there. That sucks. Whatever. Alright, let's use black. Try. Can I restart my analysis? There we go, start review. King's Gambit, I've played this once and lost. Yeah, that was a blunder. That's fair. And there. Okay. That's a blunder. There. No. And to there. Now that's a blunder. Is it from here? Oh. Okay. Yeah, they can't take because it's a fork on their king and queen. That's interesting. Just a better way to win material. God damn it. Okay. Could have been. I mean, from here, what do you want me to say? Oh, that's a mistake. Sorry. Oh, good. Instead of it being mate in 1, I'm down 73 points. That's good. Alright, well, that was fun. Let's wrap up. Thank you for joining me. We have a new channel for our Twitch VODs. We're gonna be using this a bit more. We might play Euro Truck Simulator on like Wednesday or something. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I think that's going to be it though. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for watching me lose at chess, and thank you for listening to me read Improve Your Middle gameplay. Hope you all have a good night.